Everyone. I'm here today with Elaine Wilkins, and she is the creator of the Chrysalis Effect program. And they actually have two programs currently. They have the Recovery Pathways program, which is their 9-month larger program, and then they have a new Foundations of Recovery program. And Elaine's going to tell us all about them today. Hi, Elaine.
Oh, hi, Lindsay. Thanks so much for inviting me on to be able to talk about the recovery pathways.
Thank you. No problem. Please let us know what these programs include.
Okay, yeah, sure. So just a little bit background. We've been established for 14 years. The Chrysalis Effect recovery pathway was launched back in 2009 and born out of my experience as someone who'd been through that ME chronic fatigue journey, and like so many of us was told this was a long-term chronic condition that you have to learn to live with. So that was something that I just could not accept, and it was trial and error for me to recover. It really was. But the recovery pathway was actually developed because I then I managed to find 30 people that had fully recovered. And of those 30 people, interviewing them fully, identified the sort of core of what our program is based on, and that there was 8 key areas that needed to be addressed for people to have recovered. And they'd all addressed all of them in order to be sort of vibrantly well, not just managing symptoms. So the recovery pathway works, it's online, it's digital, but it's also a hybrid where you get lots and lots of support as well. So it runs for 9 months. I always say it takes 9 months to create a new life. And in those 9 months, we address those 8 key areas of recovery. And also we identify the 6 phases of recovery, and so that people can identify very quickly which phase they're in. So when people sign up for the recovery pathway, they can toad it. So it's a 1 month free trial period. And then what will happen is they'll get access to a members area, and the recovery pathway comes in weekly increments. So there'll be a content session 1 week, there'll be a video touch base the following week, and that continues throughout the program. Right at the beginning, they'll fill out a health profile. And because we are trauma informed at the heart of everything we do, on that health profile, it has questions on there about their adverse childhood experiences and any past traumas that people will have experienced. And also, obviously, what has led up to their illness, triggers, all those kinds of things. So we get a really good overview of what that person is going through. They'll receive a personal response to that from our recovery team. Our recovery team are people that have fully recovered themselves, that are recovery specialists, but they've also gone through the recovery pathway, so they really do understand the journey. And that pathway you can sort of personalize and sort of go at your own pace, because we know that people have good days and they have not so good days. So that's the sort of weekly content that goes in. And then they'll also have access to many resources, but also a webinar library. So the other support that we give is that every month we do an educational session on one of those 8 key areas of recovery. And that's an interactive session as well. And we bring on experts, we bring on people that have recovered. So it's usually inspirational, educational, and it's very much a how-to, so people understand what's caused their illness, what's caused the symptoms, and what to do about it. Also, alongside that, we have monthly coffee mornings where everyone kind of gets together, and there's really great support and encouragement in there, peer support. So I call that role model medicine. And for daily support, we have a fantastic support forum that is hugely positive, and it's filled with people that have fully recovered and already been through their journey of ME, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and more recently long COVID. And also people that are at different sort of phases of their recovery journey. So there is tremendous lived experience, and also encouragement, empathy, support and inspiration from each other in there. We also have a little other forum, which is to develop our creativity, because often people kind of have put that aside, and that's part of the picture of what's led up to their illness. So understanding their predispositions, understanding, all those contributory factors that's tipped someone over into a chronic pain or exhaustive illness. So part of recovery is also really looking back at what we love to do creatively. So we have also a creative hub as well. We've got an artist in residence who's also been through her recovery journey. And so people really produce some fantastic art and creative things in there, which again, I think on a recent conference, we sort of did like a gallery and showed everybody's fantastic photography and sewing and whatever they were doing. So that's a good, important part of kind of that inner child healing and getting back into creativity. We also have a yoga hub as well. So we have 2 live yoga sessions every month with trauma-informed yoga. The lovely Rosie Haysom, who's fully recovered herself, been through the chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia journey, and she has wonderful voice prosody, so does lovely meditations and all different types of yoga that is links to the phase of recovery that someone's in, so they can safely work with everything from restorative and yoga nidra right the way through to when they're perhaps have regained more energy and more sort of physical stamina as well. So I think it's really basically that they get their education, and it's a coaching-based program. So it's a trauma-informed wellbeing coaching program. So everything we do is based on the power of coaching, which is, I believe, one of the most powerful interventions for developing and sort of intercepting health issues and helping people to create that sort of joyous and healthy life that they want going forward. So that's the kind of 9-month recovery pathway. As I think we talked about, Lindsay, we're the first recovery pathway to actually be commissioned by the NHS in England, which is a huge deal. And that was because we've been running for 14 years working with private patients. When we started working with national health patients, people that perhaps had been in the medical system for a long time and were being offered the recovery pathway from their GP or from, which was our aim, was always to make it accessible at point of GP referral. What we found was that working with patients rather than private clients, there was a very big difference. People were really coming from a different place. So we know that what was needed was more hand-holding, more of a structured beginning for people, and for people to have a really good understanding of the acute disease model versus the biopsychosocial model, which our recovery pathway is. So the 8-week course, which is the Foundations of Recovery, what that does is it takes people through an 8-week program where we look at the wheel with those 8 areas and coach them through week by week on a different area of the wheel. And by the time they get to the end of that, they've got a really good action plan with priorities for themselves to work on based on the sort of protocols and the model that we use for recovery. And that is 8 weeks of content. And then they also have an hour each week working with the recovery specialists, and we do breakout sessions where they can integrate their learning and also work together and get peer support around their recovery. And we found that as soon as we introduced that for more medicalized people that perhaps weren't aware of the what it took to go through a biopsychosocial model, a real 360-degree look at their life, that's where they really settled into it and found it it got easier and easier for them to take responsibility and be proactive in accessing the resources, because we did it in a sort of a more of a sort of step-by-step way. Whereas the 9-month recovery pathway, we often find that people come onto that when they've perhaps been looking for a long time, they've been seeking things out, and we just bring it all together in one place for them, and they perhaps want to work a little bit more flexibly in at their own pace. Whereas the 8-week, there are, between session activities that are kind of expected each week. On the 9-month, there are wellbeing exercises that we build in, and audios, and there's a huge amount of resources. But for some people, that's a little bit overwhelming. Then the 8-week Foundations of Recovery gives them a fantastic foundation, literally, to start their recovery journey so they'll have a distinct plan. And within both of those, we have extensive practitioner directories of practitioners and clinicians that have trained with us and have got accreditations in ME, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. And from both pathways, people can have a free 30-minute health profile review with an accredited recovery specialist, which will really identify, hear them out, sort of identify which phase they're in, and really be able to give them the next step in their recovery. And then if they want to have more one-to-one support, then of course they can book a package of care with that particular recovery specialist, and that person will oversee their recovery. They'll tailor the resources and really coordinate what they need when they need it as they're going through. So people can either choose a self-help, sort of self-directed option, or they can work alongside an accredited recovery coach that and many of them have different modalities as well. So that's trauma release experts, it's nutritional therapists, naturopaths, as well as other therapies as well in there. That's kind of the two pathways. And within that, we do measurables, so at specific times. So in the 9 months, they'll do an initial symptom impact questionnaire, and they'll fill out a health profile. And then we repeat that every 3 months so that they can get measured progress. You can see percentage improvement. 14% is deemed as clinically meaningful and significant. And we see anything from sort of 30+% within 3 months of working on the pathway. So I think that's sort of kind of, hopefully I've covered the content and the what's available, and also the measurables.
That's great. Yeah, I'm really impressed with how holistic your programs are, and affordable, and also the understanding that healing takes time. Like making it 9 months is so smart, because there is so much to learn. It's not, people want a quick fix, but it's just not possible. And I think by showing them that how much content there is to learn, and you've obviously included like so much you've been learning over the years as you progressed in your program, including trauma work, etc. I'm really impressed with it. Would you would you briefly be able to just let us know what you think sets it apart from other programs? I think you've covered it a little bit, but maybe
probably alluded to that. And I think one of the things is that those practitioners all have their various modalities, and they come to us with huge amounts of training. However, it was important that they had a unifying training. And so, we worked very hard to make sure that we had the right accreditations in place. So they're all trauma informed. They're all the recovery specialists are accredited trauma informed wellbeing coaches. And then what sits on the top of that is a specific accreditation in ME, chronic fatigue, and fibromyalgia. So they learn an awful lot about the obstacles to recovery, the mindset that we go through, the anxiety loop, all of the things that the high levels of sensitivity in people that develop chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. So they are so well versed in what that client has experienced, is feeling, and a lot about their sort of the type of predisposition or personality profile that we see commonly. So I think that's hugely important. So that's one of the things. And of course, one of the things as well that I think sets us apart is when people come through and they start to get brilliant results, many of them over the years have wanted, they've seen it, as many of us do, it was a gift, it gave them a chance to reset their life. They perhaps don't want to go back to doing what they were doing before they were ill. So we put in place a bursary pathway. So if people really wanted to help others, we offer a very heavily discounted training program so that they can go through and become recovery specialists themselves by undertaking that training. So many of our recovery specialists are in fact people that have been right through from bed-bound, wheelchair-bound to actually vibrantly well and able to help others. And they've got a really, all of them have an in-depth learning of the pathways and know where everything is and can support that person to find the resources. I think a lot of people, me included, I tried every therapy in the book. I'm sure you have, Lindsay, too. And, you know, we kind of go to a person and hope they have all the answers. Whereas this way, the practitioner is really collaborating, working alongside and sort of being able to tailor the resources as needed as that person is going through their recovery. So I think what sets us apart is that we've identified those 6 phases of recovery, which is like a route map for people. They know very early on those 8 key areas that they're going to address, and they will be able to, we work where they get a visual snapshot right at the get-go so they can see why life is a bit bumpy at the moment and where their starting point would be for recovery, because it can all be overwhelming. I think probably what helps us to stand out is being the first ever recovery pathway that the NHS in England has commissioned, because trust me, we banged on doors for a lot of years and they really did not get what we were offering or how it could possibly work, because it was the opposite model to the symptom focused model. So I think that is something that really makes us stand out. But for me, it's the fact also that we have trauma and we have all the statistics around patients that succumb or are prone to these illnesses, that we have trauma-informed practice at the very heart of everything that we do. We've also had our programme has been through University of Worcester study, so we have a published paper on the outcomes, and also we on one of the pilots that we just finished, we had University of Cambridge specialist come through to evaluate our program as well. So I feel that really gives us, you know, great sort of credence, because both of those were really positive reports and outcomes. I think being able to make sure people have got a route map, being able to see the evidence, to see the percentage improvements is super important. And I think knowing that we have protocols for each of the 6 phases of recovery so that people can get really reassured on where they are and know that as they progress through those phases, they learn so much about what they need in order to regain their health and maintain their health. And I think the coaching being at the heart of it, I was doing some work with this today, but they learn their values and often realize the values they've been living were somebody else's. And so being able to identify their own values and live in alignment with that, that ensures that people go, when they come out the other side, they can honor their well-being above all else. So I think, you know, that's what makes it for me, is the fact that pretty much everyone that they will come into contact with will be that social proof and that person who's fully recovered that's supporting them.
Yeah, that's absolutely important, vital, really, to know what you're doing next and what you're living, and all these aspects are so incredible. I'm wondering, just one little extra question of, do you know a timeline for when the program will be free to patients throughout the NHS in UK? Do they have any dates on that?
Well, we had a meeting yesterday, funnily enough. They've been doing the pilots, but because we started off with people on the 9-month recovery pathway and we realized that they weren't engaging like we were hoping, like the private patients do. But we had to consider that that was because it was free. It was because it was a different model. So we had to work all that through. And so we went back to the drawing board, and then the foundations of recovery, the 8-week pathway. So the people that have just come through that have now graduated onto the 9-month recovery pathway. So once we get them through, they've done their 8-week, they're now about 8 weeks in on the 9-month recovery pathway. So once we had the results of that, we've got the results of all the improvements they made in 8 weeks. Once we get the results out the other end, then from the meeting yesterday, whereas we've been working in a distinct area in the Midlands on our pilots, the conversation yesterday was that we're looking at national rollout when our results all come through. If all if we tick all the right boxes that the funding bodies are looking for. So I'm so excited and heartened by that. So I think we're looking at somewhere around August, September. That we'll hopefully be in a position to offer, more patients places on the recovery pathway. It feels a bit like we're turning the Queen Mary in terms of health. Little did we know, when I was sort of in bed bound and really wondering whether I'd ever recover, actually it's almost like there was a bigger plan in place, was that the healthcare model needed to change in order for people to recover. So it's really quite a privilege to be part of that and to see the changes in the healthcare professionals that want to work with us.
Oh, nothing makes me happier. Like my area is public health, and all these things should be available. Liz and I's new programs guide, I've been sharing it with doctors, and they've been wanting to talk more with me about it. And just the receptivity that's starting to come through is so exciting, because it's time.
And I just want to thank you for making that guide, because it's been fantastic for us to see what else is out there, because it has to be the right pathway for the person. We have to feel right with the pathway we choose. And I was so excited because I think when we started there was about 3, and now there's all the ones in your guide, and they're going to be the right one for the right person. And that's why I'm really big on the fact that people come and do a month with us for free and access everything, so that they can see whether it's a good fit for them.
Yeah, that's such a great thing that you provide. Great. Well, you've given so much information already. I really appreciate it, Elaine. If you could just give us one more little piece of information.
Okay, what's that?
What animal would you be if you were in the animal world? What animal do you think you would be?
Okay, well, I did think you were going to ask me this, so I did sort of have a little think about it. And the first thing that popped into my head actually was a robin.
Okay.
And I absolutely adore robins. They kind of like give my heart a little lift when I see them. So but I think what it is that when you're doing anything new, they seem to appear. So because they're very inquisitive, and I'm really inquisitive, I love people's stories, and I think that's why I could read health profiles all day long because of really getting into what people are living. So I think I love people's stories, so I think I'm inquisitive like a robin. I really hope that the one thing that drives me is to reassure people that recovery is possible. I want to lift their spirits and really encourage them. So I know that robins give us that kind of, hopefully that little uplift when we see them flitting about with their sort of red breasts. But it's a special bird to me because I remember as a child reading The Secret Garden, and there's a little robin that actually appears, and it keeps sort of showing the children the way to this secret garden, which is where they find healing. So and apart from that, I love Christmas, and robins and Christmas kind of go together. So that's the sort of animal or bird that I really do sort of love and sort of relate to. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And like a bird to me is like a representation of freedom as well, which comes along.
Freedom. Yeah.
And I really love that. And it's a beautiful animal for you. I think that's so great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have a really great day.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay, and thank you for creating the guide. I know that it's going to really help so many people and transform, their health outcomes and give them the hope that they need in order to start their recovery journey.
Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.